Teachers love a good rubric, but do you know who else loves a good rubric? Your students. Students are shown to perform better, easily judge their own work, and accept more responsibility of a final product when using a rubric. Rubrics help teachers explain to students why they received a certain grade on their work, which can support better learning for the future. And let's be honest, there's something about tables with rows of boxes that just makes everyone happy. But did you know there was actually a built-in rubric creator right in Google Classroom? And that if you spent a little bit of time building one rubric, you could actually reuse it on multiple assignments across multiple classrooms? Did you also know that you could modify an existing rubric if you needed to tweak it just a tiny bit for a different assignment? Let's check out why rubrics rule in Google Classroom. There are a few different options when you're working with rubrics in Google Classroom. We're going to explore each of them separately. So here's option 1, create a rubric, right in Google Classroom. So here I am in my Google Classroom, creating another assignment for my students. I've given it a title, a description. I've even uploaded a planning sheet for each kid. Now, all that's left is to create a rubric to go along with this project. I'm going to go down to the bottom right corner of my screen and click the plus rubric button. There are 3 choices here. Let's look at the first one, create rubric. In this choice, you're able to create a rubric right here in Google Classroom. You can enter the criterion, a description of it, and then you could modify the points. For this purpose, I'm going to make a very basic rubric. You can also add a description if you need to in the points area. When you're ready to add another criterion, you can either use this button here to add another criterion. That will give you another place to do the title, description, and then go through and do the points. Or you can go to the 3 dots that are on the right-hand side, and you can duplicate the criterion, which gives you a second copy of it that you can easily modify if you're going to have similar point values and descriptions. Once you're finished with your rubric, you can click the Save button here. You'll see that your rubric is now attached to your assignment. If I click on it, it brings me back to my editing window. And if I need to add or change something, I can click the 3 dots and edit it again. I can continue to edit it over and over again until I actually assign the assignment to my students. Another option when working with rubrics in Google Classroom is to reuse a rubric that you already created. Now we're getting to some of the fun. If I go to the rubric button in the bottom right corner, I can reuse a rubric that I've already created and used in another assignment. By clicking Reuse Rubric, I can then look and see all of the rubrics I've used in this class. I can also navigate to other classes that I might have used rubrics in. Once I find one that I want to use, I can click on it and preview it. I can select it, or I can select and edit. Select and edit allows you to modify the rubric if needed, and then save it. Now you can see that I have the rubric attached here, and if I wanted to look at it again, I can just click on it. Again, if I need to modify it at all, I can click the 3 dots and go to Edit. Once I'm ready to post the assignment for my students, I just click Assign. A third option when working with rubrics in Google Classroom is to import a rubric from Sheets. I'll be working with a template in the next portion of the video. Feel free to get your own copy of the template at this tiny URL address. You can also use a Google Slide template and fill it out and then upload it to Google Classroom. As you can see, this template has been filled out to show the criterion in yellow, a description of the criterion, and then the levels moving across. In this example, I'm choosing not to use a 5, so I'm just going to delete that entire column. My scores range from a 4 to a 1. You can see that I have 2 criteria currently. If I wanted to continue, I could add them in. Or if I'm finished, I can just delete the rest of the cells and rows. And now I'm ready to upload this back to Google Classroom. Once I've completed building my rubric in my Google Sheet template, then I can navigate back to my classwork page, where I've already started drafting my assignment. When I'm ready to add my rubric, I simply find the Rubric button in the bottom right corner, click on it, and this time I'm going to choose Import from Sheets. A new box will come up, and I will be able to find my presentation rubric. I can add it, and then it brings up my rubric editing window. At this point, I can go through and make sure that everything transferred correctly, and that if there's anything I want to change or modify, I can do that just as I did when I was building a rubric in Google Classroom earlier. If I like the way that it transferred, then I can just click the Save button. This rubric is now saved in my Google Classroom gallery of rubrics, and I can reuse it again without having to go back to my spreadsheet and upload it again from Google Sheets. It's now part of the rubrics that I can use in my assignments. Now I'm ready to assign it to my students. Now it's time for the fun part, actually using the rubric to score my students. So I'll navigate back to the assignment, and then I'll start with my first student. You can see that I'm viewing a rubric right here along the side. That's for this student. The cool thing is that I can actually click what I want their score to be. You can see that this first box is 4 points, 3 points, 2, and 1 for content. So if I'm familiar with this criteria, which I should be because I created it, I can easily click these, and you can see that it autofills in the box here. Or, if I wanted to, I could type in here. Or, if I wanted to look at the criteria again in a little more detail, I can use this collapse and expand feature. I can add a private comment. And you can also notice that if my assignment does not match the points of the rubric, that it automatically scales my assignment grade so that it matches what's reflected in the rubric. How cool is that? Once I'm finished, I can exit out of here and move on to my next student. Once I'm finished grading, I can return all of my students' items. Now let's take a look at what the students see. When the student navigates to their classwork page and they view their work, they get to see the rubric exactly as you graded it. And if they need to be reminded of the content, they can also expand or collapse the content. They also see your private comment that you attach to the rubric. So are you ready to give rubrics in Google Classroom a try? It's way easier than you might think. And if you need a helping hand on the way, reach out to a computer teacher or tech coach. We're here to help.